Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the Bogey Free podcast for the Valero Texas Open. I'm your host, Evan Chaney, today joined by Matt and a special guest, Gup. How are you doing today, guys?
Doing well. Thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to it. Little PGA tour in my backyard, my new backyard, but looking forward to go out to the course Thursday and check it out.
Yeah, I'm pumped to have you on. Thanks for joining us. I know you're a busy guy, but I'm glad we found a night that we could actually do this. And it should be a good. I don't know. I was gonna say a good tournament. It should be a decent tournament. I don't know how excited you are for this. It's kind of hard with the Masters looming to go like balls deep in this, but we'll do our best tonight.
I would hope. All right. So yeah, Gup, I'll throw it to you first. Talk about the course for a bit, and some what am I talking? Some of the stats you're looking at to build a player pool this week.
Yeah, you know what? We did our pod last night. I listened to a little bit of the industry today. I think some guys are leaning on historical preference here, which this course normally plays tough in the wind. Off the tee has had importance at times. I'm about 15-20 minutes from the course and went by there a little bit this afternoon on the way home. For the first 2 days, this course is not going to play difficult as far as wind goes. There's absolutely no wind in the forecast Thursday, probably historic low type wind for South Texas. So I caution that narrative to some. There is a system coming in Friday night into Saturday that will change, but you can't really predict that when you're looking for your cut makers and stuff like that. I think it's going to play easy. Last couple hours Friday, the wind could pick up a little bit as that storm system gets closer. But for me, I'm going to go off the narrative of what's been there normally and look at a little more lower scoring the first 2 days. So I'm going to go back to the strokes gained approach, greens and reg, birdie or better type makers. Ball strikers is going to be big here, and if you overlook the course and the layout, you can tell historically it's a big south wind here in Texas, so there are reasons why it plays hard. But if that wind's down like it is, I think some of the holes are going to be more gettable for your Tony Finau type players. Doesn't mean load up on them and that's the end all be all, but I think you could see a lower scoring first 2 days, a little bit tougher Saturday, and then it backs right back up, and it's absolutely gorgeous Sunday for a low-scoring Sunday. So a little bit different than prior years here. So I'm going to attack a little bit differently than I think some of the industry may, just off of perception.
So, you said something about like historical play. Are you looking at course history as like a factor this week?
Not a ton. It's in the model, obviously. 2015 kind of lines up. There's two reasons for that. One, the weather's a little bit different. This tournament probably had one of the biggest splits in AM PM, other than a US Open or British Open type event. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago, and there was like 2 guys from the wrong side of the draw that made the cut. One of them was DJ, which is obviously an elite player, and I can't remember the second. But so a lot of guys kind of remember that. But this tournament's also about almost a full month or more earlier than what it normally is. And so the course will play a little bit different than it has in past. So I'm not factoring tournament history or course history as much as you normally would here.
Okay. So Matt, I'll throw the same question.
Music to my ears.
Wait, hold on. You were I don't know if this was an April Fool's joke from your end. But you were talking about course history too.
Yeah, no, it was 1,000,000% an April Fool's joke. I'm literally
wanted to double check.
I'm literally wearing my course history doesn't matter shirt right now. So check the store if you want to purchase one yourself. But yeah, I fully agree. I think we've been talking about this a little bit recently, but as much as I've been like diving into the numbers, like the more that I look at things and the more that I think about what we should be looking for, like it sounds stupid, but like you literally just have to hit greens, right? So like that should be a pretty significant part of your analysis every week. And I agree with you. I think there's going to be some people who might maybe overthink it a little bit as far as the off the tee stuff. but I'm really just trying to narrow down and pick some guys who are going to hit some greens for me, make the cut in sort of a very weak field that's a little bit on the top heavy side. There's a few guys at the top, and then I think it dies out rather quickly just if you're like scrolling through the prices on DK right now. So yeah, I agree. I'm not gonna overthink this and go crazy. Just gonna try to find some ball strikers and try to get through the weekend.
Okay. So we will transition here to talking about some of these chalk guys here. Discuss whether you want to play these guys, fade them, what have you. So Sungjae Im at 10,100 and Tony Finau at 10,800. I may have been the only person watching Corrales last week, but Sungjae Im, perfection last week. So how do you feel about these guys?
Yeah, big Sungjae fan. I've been on him for a while. He was a big write-up in our preseason deal. Cameron Champ was kind of the DFS darling, and rightfully so, and I liked him as well. But Sungjae was a guy that potentially we thought long-term could have a higher ceiling. Oh, not near this caliber, but when Spieth came out, Spieth was the darling, and everybody kind of forgot that JT was as good or potentially better talent-wise. And I think in a lower sense, these two kind of had that. They were 1A, 1B, but long-term, Sungjae probably has the better overall game and is elevated quicker to this level than what Cameron has. Cameron's powerful, but for an all-around player to week in and week out, Sungjae's definitely shown he's better. There's some narrative of, is he going to be tired? I mean, I think research last night showed, I think he 12 or 16 weeks in a row he played on the web last year. So he's a grinder type guy that I don't think that narrative matters. And I fairly confident he wants to win this and try to get into Augusta. Finau is going to be interesting. I originally last night, it's 100% fade. Bucks, one of the partners, he's all over Finau this week. I don't know where he's at this week. I will wait till ownership kind of lays out. Right now, I'm not on him at all. He's obviously one of the elite with Fowler in this group. If he's going to be chalky with another guy, I think we'll get to in a second, Kokrak, I'll fade the chalk and just, this is a tournament that, I'm willing to take, a few chances and gain leverage where I can. And if I thought last night Sungjae may still be a darling, but if you're going to give me him at lower ownership, I'll take him all day.
Yeah, I'm fully with you on Sungjae. We did a show over the winter with Wedge and Jimmy, and he was my pick for Rookie of the Year. So I mean, I think up it, once he gets away from like these Florida tracks that like you actually need to hit fairways, that could be a potential problem for him in the future. But yeah, Im is absolutely a grinder. I saw the same thing. I think it was 17 weeks in a row that he played last year, which is just, I mean, if these guys play like 5 weeks in a row, sometimes we're like, whoa, like take a break, go home, see your family sort of deal. So I'm not concerned at all about like fatigue here for him. He right now has the third longest streak on tour of rounds at par or better. He's just been hitting the ball well. Obviously, if he's going to be popular, ownership might dictate you to fade him, but he's obviously a good play at whatever price he's going to be at in a weak field like this. I kind of feel the same way about Finau, but I just sort of always end up playing him regardless of whether it's a good like game theory play or not. So I will probably, I don't know, maybe double or triple the field on Finau this week. As things stand right now.
Yeah, I mean, the only issue I have on a guy like Finau is his around the green game. Last 24 rounds, probably one of the worst in the field, according to Fantasy National. That does scare me a little bit. Other than that, though, I'm like, like you said, like this is a weak field, so a strong iron guy like Finau should do well in this field.
Yeah, I think he could. He's a guy that could take advantage. If the wind is down, for sure, he can figure out a way to score when guys are going low. So, I definitely have interest in Finau this week.
Okay. All right. We'll go down to our next tier of guys here. We only have one player in this 8K to 9,400 range, which is Jason Kokrak. Up, I'll throw it to you first here. How do you feel about Kokrak this week?
Yeah, obviously, I believe he got the Mayo bump from what I was told. I haven't got to Mayo's cast yet, but in general, I like him. He's like fifth in my model out the gate, which is pure statistical model. There's no bias in it. Solid. I mean, just absolute straight fire on recent form lately. I imagine he's going to be highly owned. He looks that way already in some of the projections I've looked at and done myself. I'm okay taking a stance and fading there. The small sample size of form over his long term, is a little bit of a difference for him. The one thing with him is I don't know how he'll put on these greens. These greens are historically slower than normal, and definitely slower than some of the courses you come off of Florida. I heard that they're going to try to make them a little quicker this week if they're going to stay in the spot year in and year out. They want to attract some guys, no different than the Shell did, being in the spot right before Masters. If you have slow greens, which is one reason why Finau I caution with him a little bit, because he loves quick greens and he putted tremendous on Augusta last year. And if he comes there this year and these things are Velcro or slow, he may take this out of his rotation if it's going to stay the week before. It's an unknown, right? We'll find it out as the tournament's going on. But one thing with Kokrak, if he can't putt, he's going to struggle a little bit. And if he's going to want to be in one of the highest or the highest owned, I certainly don't mind pivoting off him. His game in general, I love, and he's all there. Ball striking has been probably the best on the Florida swing, if not one of the best. And so certainly a reason to play him, but there's a couple other people that I would love to pivot to off of him.
Okay. Matt, how do you feel?
Yeah, I think that obviously makes a lot of sense. He's on a streak right now of 17 cuts made in a row, which is just insane. And his strokes gained approach is like significantly higher. His 50 round moving average is like significantly higher than it has been at any point in his career. He's sort of flirting with like a top 5 approach player according to Data Golf here. And in little tiny spurts, he's maybe hit like 7/10, and he's like approaching like a full stroke gain per round now on approach. So that I don't know if the regression hits immediately, but if he's going to end up being like a top 3 owned guy this week, which I think he has the potential to, I think obviously it makes sense for you to fade him in tournaments at least.
Where do you think his ownership will be at?
I mean, currently I have him somewhere low 22% type range. I mean, I think he'll be high teens, low 20. I mean, he'll be top 4 or 5 guy owned right now in the tournament.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, do you have a limit on him? Just like, because of course ownership projections can go up as guys get talked about throughout the week. Do you have some kind of a limit where you'd say, all right, I'm going to back down just a touch?
It depends week to week. For me, obviously, it also depends on where can I pivot. If he's like my 3rd rated guy and the pivot to him's like my 19th rated guy, then I obviously sometimes just go, well, I'm not going to drop X amount of levels just to pivot. I'll play it and at least be even to the field and move on. But this week I have all kinds of guys right around him that I like, close to or better, Ryan Moore, Benny On, could even go Furyk if he's going to be low owned, Abraham Answer, Horschel's going to be $400 more and be significantly lower owned than him. That ball striking wise, I'll put him right there. I know he's had a hot putter, but there's so many options around him that I don't mind moving off of him this week.
Okay. All right. So on that note, let us discuss our low cost chalk guys here in Luke List at 8,000, Joaquin Niemann at 7,600. Luke List, his putting woes have certainly continued. I don't know if New List is a. Are we still on New List here, Matt?
No, new list is gone.
That was
we had a brief moment where it looked like maybe he could have turned a corner and been a little bit more of a grinded out type guy, but that hope is long gone now.
Yes, he long putted that hope.
Yeah, he's something else watching him putt. It's like, did you ever go mini golfing as a child? Like just aim at the hole. Like just I don't understand what the problem is. Like there's a hole in front of you. That's the point of the game.
I don't know. Some people just don't get it though. But Gup, how are you feeling about List here?
I think my stance this week will be to potentially bet him in case he catches fire and then just move off the DK side. He's still my player pool as of now. You know, there's now Niemann. I mean, there's guys around him, same deal. That you know I can move off of. I do like List, and you know, putting such a catch fire type of deal. You know, maybe slow ass greens will help him. I don't know, but if he catches fire, the rest of his game is right there. And you know, the one thing I don't like is he's missed back-to-back cuts here. He doesn't have the greatest history here, anyways. So if you give me a chalky List, then that's probably a good spot to just go elsewhere. I don't like if Niemann's going to catch fire. I really don't like that because I'm team Niemann. I'm a fanboy of his since watching him at Augusta last year in person as an amateur. Got on that train early, and I think I listened to his presser today, and I was impressed with one thing I forgot is that he talked about the Florida swing and said, I'm comfortable this week because I'm finally at a course that I'm seeing for the second time. And you forget this kid just turned 20 in November. So how's he struggling? And then you go back and look, he made the cut at Honda, API, and Valspar, and there's some big names that didn't do that at least. I know he missed last week, unexplainable, whatever. I don't really care about it as much as the kid's got talent, and at 7,600, I'll load up on him and I'll be overweight on the field.
Yeah, how you feeling here? Just give me every little bit of Joaquin Niemann every single week. This was like his sort of coming out party last year. Right? Like he was, I think, top 10. I think he might have been like 5th or 6th last year. I know my former co-host Jimmy made a metric shit ton of money on playing Niemann that week. So that sticks in the memory there. And I can sort of ignore the Corrales thing. Like I'll just pretend that didn't happen and continue to bet on this kid. List is a different story. I think that obviously it seems like the irons sort of came back over his past couple of starts, but I agree with you. I think betting him is probably the way to go, and just moving on, with some of the other like high 7, low 8 guys in the range around him. Just out of curiosity, Gup, how often do you do that where you like kind of hedge against a guy you're a little worried about fading and just throw like top 5 on him?
Yeah, so I typically it may be weak. I mean, there are guys that I go, man, that's a good value in the betting world, but not a guy I want to put in my DK lineups. Right. It may not be weekly, but there are definitely spots where I'll go different on that and go, just because he's in my betting pool doesn't mean I load it up on DraftKings and vice versa. Especially like that specific, Luke. A lot of it's, sometimes it's Niemann and Ryan Armour and Dom, Team Gup, the guys that gave me the summer of all summers last year that I'm going to bet them because I like them. And Niemann may actually be an official bet this week as much as a FOMO bet. But guys I like and think they're good value and could get hot and win a tournament, I'll bet them. But I'm not going to put anything on DraftKings because the game's just that far off, or there's so much concern, or the ownership leverage, right? So like Kokrak, if Kokrak was 40-1, I'd bet him, but because of leverage on ownership, I may not play him at all.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. I've been finding myself doing that a little bit more, or like, taking a guy in a head-to-head that I don't have in DK just to kind of save if it just goes completely wrong one week.
Sure.
Which it's been known to do.
All right.
All right. Real quick, just want to remind you guys you can get into the list league this week. I didn't shout out the winner of last week, Steve Lambert. Solid lineup, had Kiz and Cooch in there, as well as Worry and Rose. So that was a good little lineup that he put together there. Won it pretty easily. 50 guys again this week, as usual. $5, top 3 pay. So make sure you hop into that. I just put it up maybe half an hour before the show started. And make sure you hop into the Masters League as well. That's already posted, so hop into both of those.
All right, let's talk about some GPP pivots here. We'll start with our 9,500 and up tier. Who you got, Gup?
You know, a guy that I've kind of gone back and forth with all day today as I looked at more for, Horschel, I think is going to be low owned, and I definitely don't mind going to him if he's going to be low owned. I know there's some narrative of, where's does he care this week? He's already in the Masters. But his personality tells me he's not going to show up at a tournament, not care. So if he's going to be low owned, I'll take him. Furyk's a guy that wants to get into Augusta, no doubt. And if he's going to slip under a little bit, I don't mind pivoting to him off of a Kokrak or something like that. If you're GPP, if you're doing 20 plus lineups, I'm going to tell people to play Spieth. Although I'm not a big GPP lineup guy normally, so I may not have any of them this week. But he's just an elite talent. So at 10-3, which is a egregious price for him, he should be 9,100 maybe with his form. I'm more up to play him next week just based off of the place and what he does there. But if he's going to be 5%, I'm always going to play him. If I'm going to do 20 lineups, you can put him in 2 and you're double the field. And that a guy like that can show up any week and finally catch fire. We know he's been hot garbage lately, but and the last guy that I kind of said is Sungjae. If he's going to be low owned or way lower than the other guys, I definitely don't mind playing him above 9,500.
What about the Skechers god himself, Matt Kuchar? 11-2.
I don't like him here. I don't like his history here. I don't like the 7 rounds for him. The Garcia garbage. I watched him. I followed him a lot at AT&T last year at Byron Nelson, and when things just kind of went awry and he just didn't care, you could see things on the course where it looked like he was not trying to make the cut. And I just don't think I don't like him at all. I think he's more focused on the Masters. And at 11-2, I don't really want any part of him. And that's a narrative deal. There's analytically wise, yeah, he's top 6 in my model. He's all there. But there's a lot of things surrounding him that I'll pass and go elsewhere this week. I'd rather play Ricky, although I don't know his motivation other than, chalking the Valero off the list of his once in every 4 years. And he loves to warm up before the Masters. He said it today in the presser. He loves live competition as opposed to grinding out on the range the week before the Masters. So I think he's here to play 4 rounds, but I'd rather play him over Kuchar.
Yeah, there's one note here on Matt Kuchar on Fantasy National, because now that you have that notes feature, he has 3 down thumbs. And he says, for all we know, the member who wrote that note is completely full of shit. Please favorite accurate. Well-written notes. That's all it says.
I'm struggling to sort of pay all the way up this week just because there's a couple guys that I like down at the bottom, but it is definitely not a tournament where I feel like a stars and scrubs approach is optimal. I think balance this week is probably the way to go. Not to say that I won't have, a lineup or 2 with Fowler or Kuchar, but I think it's very difficult to feel confident in the cut equity of a lineup that includes one of those guys, depending on where you go afterwards. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think Horschel is probably my. I guess he's my least favorite just from the model that I put together. I really feel like I just can't stay away from Spieth, and it's bothering me because I know I shouldn't be playing him as much as I have been, but it's one of those things where you see the guy and you're like, well, fuck, he's like he's Jordan Spieth. Like he has to figure it out at some point, right? And he just seems to not be able to figure it out. So I don't know, maybe he's loose this week and finds something and, you know, makes the cut and gives you, I don't know. I don't really think he's like much of a threat to win here. But I do think that he could give you, you know, a top 15 at pretty low ownership this week, which I think could get you there if the rest of your lineup is solid. So Spieth is very tempting to say the least this week, but there's some other guys in the next range that I like a little bit more than these guys.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that sentiment. I mean, again, you know, I do want to build that balanced lineup this week, so maybe I wouldn't reach for a Fowler or a Kuchar. You know, maybe Finau might be as high as I would go. Spieth, of course, scares the shit out of me. But yeah, I do agree with you guys other than that. All right, so let's go down here in the pricing spectrum. We have our $8K to $9,400 golfers. Of course, I know who I like. Lucas the God Glover. I have been, you know, Matt knows this. I have been on him for, how long have we been doing this show?
It's so fucking annoying that he's like actually good right now because like, Gup, just to catch you up, like we had a standing bet. I guess it was, what was it, 2 summers ago, where I was just in love with Kevin Tway and he was in love with Glover, and it was just like back and forth, and it was just dog shit. Like it was like a, you know, a T30 versus a T28 every week, but it was like the running bet that we had together, and now like Glover's just decided that he's like the third coming of Arnold Palmer or whatever.
I mean, he's been damn good lately.
Yes, can't take it away from him.
Yeah. But yeah, where are you on this?
Well, on those, I'd be team Tway. I actually, I know Tway. He grew up in my hometown back in Oklahoma. Met him when he was like 7 years old at a tournament where his dad was. It was a charity deal. Great kid. Watched him through his high school career. So I would be on that side. And this week, Glover, I don't trust him at all, virtually, and I probably don't trust him at all at a 9,300 price tag to show up and play. He's been playing great. Definitely will be very low owned, so he's a good pivot. I mean, price wise, I mean, I'd go Benyon all day. You're gonna give me Benyon for $100 less than Glover. I'll take it every single day of the week. But I would take Glover like over Beer Garden this week. I would take Glover. I know Beer Garden's probably gonna be low owned. But if that dude doesn't, you know, make 17,000 feet of putts and he doesn't make the Sweet 16, he's probably like 7,400 this week. So although he played great, I don't know if the 9,000 is warranted. So I'm interested to see when I do my ownership models tomorrow where that comes in and where people, you know, are they high on him because of the hot week, and obviously beating Tiger is going to bump him, but for that much money, you know, I'll pass strongly. I'll go my top play right in that area. There's 2. Well, I don't know if you said 8,500 or 84, but number 1 would be Answer. You know, obviously Team Boomer. I actually got to meet him. I saw him on the greens last week at WGC. And after the first round, I bet him the next 2 days because he was just off slightly. Luckily, I was watched him in person on Wednesday, and I was like, he's going to do well, and he did. He played very well the next 2 rounds and won both his matches. And I have a feeling he's going to start to be popular. And I've only listened to a couple things since I started the industry talk today, but I hope not, because I really want to load up on him, and I like him a lot this week.
Yeah, so you're not buying the Tiger Slayer, I guess.
No. I mean, if he would have, I mean, so he was conservative off the tee as far as club selection, which you could be out there. You know, a little bit different here. It's still light rough, so I think but he's gonna have to hit driver or something to be in play. Yeah. And I mean, there's no strokes gained at the match play, but his putting was unreal last week, and so. Right. You know, if he was 7,800, of course he'd be uber chalk, but he'd be more playable than here at 9,000.
Yeah, no, for sure. I I had friends that are like casual golf fans, like texting me, like, "Did you know about this kid? Like, what's his deal?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's fine. Like, it's gonna be okay. He's not gonna be like, third in the world next week. He's got a ways to go still." My model is pointing me towards Benyon. He's number one as far as my course fit goes this week, and I can't really, I haven't really found a reason to not believe that. So he's definitely going to be pretty highly owned for me.
Must win to get into Augusta, and he wants to. I promise you, he wants to get there. So I agree with you there.
Yeah, and for sure. And I think that he's, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about him in general because I feel like a lot of the time I play a little bit of whack-a-mole with him and don't always get him right. But I just feel like he's sort of putting each part of his game together to do pretty well. Hopefully, he could take this down and play next week as well. Another guy that I'm pretty interested in is Johnny Vegas, and I'm curious your thoughts, Cup, on Mr. Vegas there.
So he was the next. Oh yeah, he was the next guy on. If he's going to sleep under the radar, he's in my 1 to 3 max pool already. As far as I got about one more cut to make to that pool, but he's there. So I like his game here. Watched him at the Masters last year. I actually got to meet his brother off the before the #1 tee. He was out hanging back, and we talked to him for a minute. Great family. But he's he wants to get back there as well. Coming in great form, a T16 23, a third at the TPC with a great putt on number 17. T26 last week in an event he really had no reason to get up for. It wasn't going to boost him or help him much other than a few FedEx points. But he missed a cut last year here, but he also has good history in prior years. So mixed bag there, but I think this course will play a little more to his advantage than it has in the past. I love him. And if he's going to be sub 10% or something like that, I'll have plenty of Vegas.
Yeah, I think I don't know if I'm speaking out of turn because I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking about this, but we at Rotoviz we're putting together an app that basically like finds comps for pivoting purposes, and if you throw in Kokrak, Vegas is hitting more greens over his last 3 events, hitting more fairways, and is about the same tee to green. So if you can, if he's going to be one of the top 4 or 5 guys owned, and you can get Vegas at a price discount and an ownership discount, I think that he makes a lot of sense this week.
Yeah, I do a deep dive for recent form and course history that I released actually tonight, and he's top 10 in that model, which is it focuses on that last 12 round 3-month type of don't give a shit about what course, what win. It's just purely how they play, and he's right there, and as well as Benyon. So I like both those guys.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, the 2 guys in the field this week that are the closest to Kokrak, who we think of as having great form, is Benny and Johnny Vegas. So
sure, yeah,
it makes sense. I feel better about both of those calls now that you're saying that you agree. So that works.
I like them both. We'll get to the #1 in a little bit with my boy KH Lee, who vitally screwed me over 2 weeks ago. only to troll me the next week at the Punta where I faded him.
I do have a, I don't know if I have an alliteration for him yet, or a rhyme. Matt knows exactly what I'm talking about. Last week it was no Lashley, no Cashley.
Which how did that work out for you in the Dominican Republic?
He was top 8 after Thursday, missed the cut.
And what about no Ches, no Cheddar a couple weeks before that? What happened with that? Was that a miscut as well? So maybe stop with your fucking sayings and ruining these guys.
I have another saying this week.
It's like an Andercurse.
No,
juiced. You're paying the juice.
Oh, that's a stretch.
So with him, I think I think what some people will come to is that they don't think he's great off the tee, and because people will overvalue that this week, he may actually come in low, which I don't mind hopping on him because I don't think off the tee is going to be as relevant this week as some, as we kind of mentioned off the top. Right now he's top 12 in my model. All around game is great. He's going to be an ownership guy for me. Going into last night, I thought he would be pretty popular, but now that people are starting to pull some of the kind of European stats that they have out there available, and you look at the off the tee there, he's terrible, which is fine. I like for them to do that because I'm a guy that doesn't think the European Tour correlates over here at all as far as statistics go. No different than the Web or anybody else. I mean, the PGA Tour and the tees and the setup is night and day difference than anything else. So I don't use the correlative stats like others do. I just watch the guy when I'm looking at these kind of guys that are fresh over here for the first time. And I think his game, can set up here well. And I would play him if he's going to be low owned. If he's going to be high owned, I'll pass. That's kind of where I am on him.
Okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, I just wanted to throw the name out there, of course.
No, yeah. Yeah.
All right. Anyone else you guys want to discuss here in this here range? Want to go down?
No, we can go down.
All right. So let us discuss our, where are we? 7K to 8K guys here. Of course, as you go down, there's really not a whole lot to be had. I mean, we might have former President Warren G. Harding's great grandson here in Justin Harding at 7,700.
Yeah, so a guy that is just below the two price points you said is and I don't know if he's going to be popular or not. I followed him the last 14 holes at Honda, talked to him a while. I walked up to him double fisting some Tito's, and he was like, first thing he said to me was a little hair of the dog. And I was like, yeah, a little bit. And it's Ryan Palmer. I like him more if this is a windy, low scoring, tough condition type deal, which it could get a little bit Saturday. I worry if he can, go low if it's going to be low scoring Thursday, Friday. So I'm on the fence with him more than I was, Monday morning. Great course history here. I know that's a bad word in this atmosphere, but he, West Texas boy. I have a couple friends that actually played college golf with him, and so great guy. He was fun to talk to. Very, very nice to us when we were following him on the course. I like him, and he's a potential. When I drop down the sevens, we've already talked about Neiman. I'm on him. I'll be on him a lot. A guy that's high up there that I'll play great, just coming into great form and really like his game where he's at. And it's Nick Taylor, which is right kind of in that range. A guy that I can never absolutely get right. And I've already told the community, the Gubbs Corner community, I said, if I play him, fade him. If I don't play him, and it's Hadley, Chess on Hadley, he's cost me thousands upon thousands of dollars on missed cuts with going like double, triple bogey the last 3 holes and miss a cut, many times. So I don't get him right, but I have him teed up to play here this week.
I've been there too.
Probably the last guy that's kind of right there, sleeper in that area that I like is Chris Kirk. He's high up in my model this week. T8 here last year, T15 at the API. He did miss a cut at the Valspar, but kind of fits this kind of the way this course could play out this week. And so he's a guy that's on my radar as well in this area that you just said.
So Matt,
I can agree with a lot of those guys. This is sort of where I have to decide if I'm trusting the math or if I'm trusting like my brain. Because Trey Mullinax popped quite a bit in my model. Hadley was up there too, and Wyndham Clark for whatever reason, and Scott Stallings all sort of showed up pretty strongly. Like they're all, I guess, in like the top 15 or so in my model for this week. I don't really know how I feel about any of that yet, but I do think that Stallings is too cheap at 7,000 even. Like I think in this kind of a field, you could see him closer to, like Justin Harding 7,700. Like there's guys that are more expensive than him that can kind of, you could make an argument that they could swap spots.
Completely
so
agree. Yep.
I think I'm leaning towards Stallings. Like if there's a guy that I'm gonna go sort of, you know, pretty heavily on, it's gonna be Stallings this week at 7K, just so I could fit in whatever else I want, you know, towards the top of the salary range.
So in general, I get asked this a lot, and I have, you know, there's a fear among most of the people that play that when they get down this low, they prefer to pick like 8 guys and hope one's hit, as opposed to narrowing down to 2 or 3 and just knowing if it's not their week, it's not their week and you missed out. I personally tend to narrow down. Like I don't try to spread out among, because the odds of hitting any of them and then the one I do in the right lineup is even harder, that I'd rather take a stand on 2 or 3 and just say, these are the guys I like this low, and they either hit or they don't. I know that going in the week. Do you have a spread of, you know, what's your opinion there on these lower end guys?
Yeah, I definitely, I lean towards most weeks, really sort of narrowing in. It's arbitrary and it changes every week, but probably
Sure.
From like the 7,000 to 8,000 range, I would say that I don't really roster more than 2 of those guys, and just put them in everywhere that I possibly can to make lineups work. I'm much more likely to spread out a little bit up top at the more expensive range and hope to find a win up there, and, you know, just hope that the guys that I go heavily on make the cut. That's kind of been my strategy. It obviously brings in variance though, right? Like you're going to have weeks where you just completely whiff.
Sure.
But the weeks that you hit on those guys are always like immensely profitable. So it definitely evens out. I'm a one lineup for cash guy, and I usually go 20 laps. I do like the birdie or something like that. And yeah, I would say if I'm rostering more than 3 guys in that range, it's probably not going to be a good week for me.
No,
all right. We lose Gup here for a sec there.
Oh, did I drop off?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
See what you said again?
I was just saying I agree. And last year I as well had Neiman here. And this was, other than the big, huge summer, you know, this was one of my best weeks of the year. And I had 0 Landry.
Yeah.
All right. Anyone else you guys want to talk about in this range here?
Yeah, I just need to ask a question to Gup, because I've lost, I would say like Uline is just the absolute like biggest money sink that I have in DFS in general. Well, at least in PGA, like Jarvis Landry was probably the worst last year in NFL, but it's a similar feeling to me. Like I want to believe, I want to, you know, hope for the best with Uline. I think there were some signs for optimism with the way that he struck it last week, but he's sort of been all over the map after, you know, being kind of touted as a pretty decent option with a pretty high ceiling. But he's at 6,900 this week, and it just seems, again, like I said with Stallings, that like just from like a talent perspective, I feel like maybe that's a little bit too low. Do you have a strong feeling on Uline either way?
You know, not particularly this week. He's definitely, you know, coming out of Okie State where, you know, Fowler and all those guys did. He had the pedigree, and it just, for whatever reason, he can't put 4 rounds together over here. You know, a little bit of fly house bar made the cut. He's got good short game in general. For his price, he can hit some greens, and so I definitely would think he's even more in play if this was a traditional Valero where you get the wind up, because he's used to playing in that at Stillwater. But he would definitely be worth a dart here for sure. He's a guy that I'd bet at the 125 number before I DK on personally. But stat wise, he's top 60 in the field for me, even though total model he's way down there just because of very little form and tournament history.
Right. Yeah, I think he's an interesting one that I'm sort of. I mean, what you need him in like a lineup or two to be overweight on the field, so it's not like you need to go crazy on him.
Sure.
So there's definitely that. If I'm gonna dip into this range, and then I gotta just mention my boy Hank. I just have a good feeling about it. I think 6,400 is a little too cheap. I think he can pretty easily grind out a cut here at least, and 6,400 I think is egregious for him. And he popped 8th in my model, so I think I just need to play the hell out of him this week and hope for the best.
Yeah, I don't mind him at all. Yeah, I like him.
Okay. Now, does your Hank also sell? Does he also sell propane and propane accessories?
I hope so.
He should.
He's the best FSU golfer in the field this week, so that's good.
If only I can remember what college Lucas Glover went to.
I have no idea. That's more of a shot at Berger.
All right.
You got any real cheap darts down here too, Gup?
You know, Adam Shank is on my list. DJ Trahan's one that I mentioned last night. I downgraded him a little bit today just because I said last night that he's a little smoke and mirrors because most of his recent data comes from the weaker fields, but this isn't a strong field either. So he's a guy that can strike the ball well, hit greens, and if he's hot, he's definitely in play, betting and throw a few darts. I'm not afraid to go back to KH Lee, although he cost me at least 5 figures by not at least completing and getting more than 4 points after two rounds of golf 2 weeks ago. But nothing's changed from him, and he played really well last week, so I don't mind him if you're throwing some 20+ type lineups. Kind of a sleeper off the radar, just seems to be popping for me out of nowhere is Sean Stefani, I guess is how you say his last name. And 6,400 is a guy I could throw low if I'm trying to go really, crazy up top and get a couple 9,000 or maybe even 3 9,000 him and then go balance. So he's a guy that's potential for a GPP lineup.
I like it. You like anybody down here, Ev?
I was going to say DJ Trahan because he was the homie last week, but that's all.
Fair enough. And I know we're rooting for Max Homa too, right?
We are. Yeah. I put a bet on him. I put a bet on him, but if I'm doing 10, 20 lineups for 6,400, I'd throw him in there. He's got talent. He just, he's still young and hadn't put it together, but obviously his heart's in the right place, and there's always a heart bet for me on that.
For sure.
All right, so let's talk about some cash locks here. I will go first. Sunjay Eam and Lucas Glover.
I mean, if we were tracking your shit this year, I would imagine that Glover is like 75% of your cash.
What? I mean, all fields that he's in, 100% of them.
All right, I guess that's all right. At least you got Eam in there, so when Glover ejects on Friday afternoon, you'll feel a little bit better about yourself.
I am offended. Blasphemy.
Yeah, I wrote it up this week over at RotoViz. My 2 guys that I'm rolling with are Benny On and Johnny Vegas.
Who was it to?
Benny On and Johnny Vegas are my 2 guys this week.
So as far as and I'm not a big cash guy. I think anybody that follows me knows that I don't do a lot of that. But Ryan Moore is a lock solid play from this week. I think he makes the cut. I think he wants to play in Augusta. I think he will do everything he can to top 10. And then the second would be Benny On, like you said. So I definitely like him there. If I was going to go, a spin off of that. I really think this guy is going to play well this week. I don't care about ownership or if he catches fire in the media and all that. But Abraham Answer, I think, makes a cut, makes a top 10, and is sitting there Sunday with a chance to win this tournament.
I like it.
All right, that'll do it for us. Make sure to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and YouTube. Just search us under Bogey Free, and you'll see our beautiful faces and voices right over there. And if we are not winning all the money this week, we hope you guys do. So good luck in your contests this week.
Thanks, Saga.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yep. See you.